we can get started. And I was going to read a land acknowledgement. If I can find it real quick. Yeah. So anyway, hi, welcome to the, this is our 12th Equity Summit, the Berkeley Equity Summit Alliance is what we're called. This is our 12th one. Women's Herstory. We're in Women's Herstory Month. It's also National Nutrition Month. But I just wanted to start with a land acknowledgement, and then we'll go to Mama Ayana for the libation. Or should we do that first?
No, go move.
Which
You
do
can
you
move to
prefer?
the land acknowledgement. We usually do that first.
Okay. Okay. So let me see. I'm just trying to. I have COVID, so my brain is not functioning right. It's so weird. Okay. So, and my computer's not cooperating either. We're here in Berkeley on Ohlone territory, the land of the, can I find it? I'm sorry, this is not working. Okay, we're sitting on the territory of the Huichin, the ancestral and unceded land of the Chochenyo-speaking Lujan Ohlone people, the successors of the sovereign Verona Band of Alameda County. This land was and continues to be a great importance of the Muwakma Ohlone tribe and other familiar descendants of the Verona Band. We recognize that we in Berkeley, every member of Berkeley community has and continues to benefit from the use and occupation of this land. And now I would like to turn it over to Mama Ayana Davis from Healthy Black Families, and she will do an libation. Thank you.
Can everyone see me?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, maybe Makai, if you can stop screen sharing and then highlight Ayana, that would be great.
We're on speaker, and if everyone else could mute their speakers,
Yes.
that'd be great. And hi, Pamela. Good to see you.
Can you highlight Mama Ayana as the speaker?
Yes, I'm trying.
Thank you. Willie has his hand up.
No, I'm getting used to this phone again. I'm trying to mute. Is that *6?
I forget what it is.
Okay, I'm gonna try to experiment. Hopefully
Okay.
make a calamity out of this.
Oh, there you go.
I am honored to be here and always in your homes and your Zoom rooms to honor our ancestors. I'm going to move my plant though, y'all. I'd like it to be a little closer to me. Give me a moment. Here we go. Now let's just take a moment to ground ourselves wherever you are, get comfortable. And take a deep breath. Close your eyes and just center yourself. We pour libations to honor our ancestors and to bring a divine and sacred chemistry of the Creator and our ancestral lineages. Giving thanks to the Almighty Creator of all life, known by many names, but only one. Giving thanks to the divine energies, the sacred energies, the blessings of the universe. Ashe. Giving thanks for the heavenly bodies, for that which is above, may it so be below, as we see our divinity, our synchronicity, our beauty, our harmony exemplified to us through all of creation. Ashe. Giving thanks to the elemental relations, the elemental forces, the sunlight, the wind, the air, the rains, the snow, the clouds, the fogs, this earth. Ashe. Giving thanks for the relations of this earth, the human, plant, animal, insect, the flying ones, the swimming ones, those that slither and crawl. Giving thanks for all of our relations, from the east, the north, the west, the south. Ashe. Today, I would just like to take a moment to give thanks for the wonderful trees and flowers and plants, the blooming things, the fragrances that we smell in the day and the night air as we go through our lives, that bless us with just exquisite harmoniousness of nature. Ashe. And on this planet, on this earth, this beautiful Patria Gaia Mama who nourishes and sustains us, we give thanks for the original ancestors that came together in harmony, in sacred union to bring forth life on this planet, that we might be together from all directions in this moment, all nations in peace and harmony. Ashe. And to those ancestors, those teachers, those leaders, those original ancestors who left us their signs and their symbols and their deeds, their monuments, that we might know our greatness and carry forward this knowledge in who we are and all that we do. Ashe. And to those that resisted, because never was there a time that we did not resist oppression in all of its form. Ashe. And to the ancestors of the Middle Passage, W.E.B. Du Bois, documented over 60 million strong. Those whose bones that you can see lining the Atlantic from the heavens above, to those wonderful, wonderful ancestors of the Middle Passage. Ashe. And thinking of those ancestors, I think about a speech that Susan Taylor gave once at the first Black Women's Conference in Compton, California, and I believe it was 1991. And she said the people of Essence went over to Africa to the door of no return and were called together by the elders and told that they wanted us to know here in this country that we are descended from the best of us, that those that were stolen and taken and sold were not criminals. They were loved and wanted. They were leaders and artists and warriors and healers and mothers and fathers and scholars. They were the best. Ashe.
Ashe.
Thank you. And to those who greeted us here in Turtle Island, the keepers of the lands of Turtle Islands, who resisted and joined with us in family and community, Ashe.
Ashe.
And to the freedom fighters, too many to name, those known and unknown, those who resisted, conspired, collaborated, joined together to fight oppression, to fight for our freedom and our liberation, for the freedom fighters throughout the centuries, to those in our families and our lineage, and to those known and unknown, named and unnamed. Ashe.
Ashe.
And in this moment, we want to give honor to those gone too soon, the fallen. These times, thinking of our family and community in Mississippi, who the loved ones lost there. Thinking of our 16-year-old Leila Bartlow and Burkina Faso, and my sons, Katari and Anthony, and my political sons, Javad Jahi, Tupac Shakur, and my fallen comrades, and those of us who have been fallen from matricide, fratricide, police violence, murder, intercommunal violence, to those fallen gone too soon. Too many to name, but I know that you are loved and thought of. Ashe.
Ashe.
And then to those yet to come, the unborn, and those who may have touched our womb for a moment or a season, to the unborn, we continue to invite you to come forward and become community with us as we build and join together to create a world for you where you will always be loved, always be cared for. Ashe. And then finally, take a breath and think of an ancestor that you would like to walk with you, that you would like to be with you. Let's be specific about our women and female identified ancestors. I'm thinking of Mardell Sherrick, Queen Mother Moore. Feel free to say their name aloud or put their name in the chat. In this moment.
Sister McKinney.
Sister McKinney, yes. Beloved Sister McKinney. Ashe, my sister, my Amuna, my grandmothers, Annabelle and Eloisa. My great Aunt Catherine, who everyone says I look like. Thank you all. Thank you. We give thanks for the many women who have been heroic or just went through each day and lived life to the fullest, or who struggled in life but continued to live and to move and be in movement. We send these beautiful, wonderful thoughts and blessings out to the universe and know that they come back to us greatly multiplied as we say Ashe.
Ashe.
Amen.
Amen.
And so it is.
So it is.
I would just like, before we leave and move forward, to remind everyone about the equity, the Equity for Black Berkeley upcoming People's Assembly happening April 15th at BTA. I'll put the information in the chat. And to remind you to go to Healthy Black Families Equity for Black Berkeley page and fill out the survey so that we can know what your vision is, your thoughts are on Equity for Black Berkeley. And I'll also put flyers. We're beginning a fellowship, and we're inviting community members to apply for a fellowship and the accompanying policy advocacy, and organizing training that will begin in a couple of weeks. Continue to organize together, to love each other, to show compassion and patience. But do know that resistance is sacred work, and you are moving in divine path as you resist and organize to liberate and activate to live. Ashe. Thank you.
Ashe. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mama Ayana. Can everybody hear me? Yes.
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 Okay. All
Hey,
right.
Javanka.
I might turn off my camera because my computer's acting a little funny. So it'll act better if I don't have it on. But now we're gonna move right along, and I'm gonna have both Pamela Price, the Honorable Pamela Price, our Alameda County District Attorney, and our Honorable Jovanka Beckles, our AC Transit Board member, introduce themselves. So we're going to start with Pamela Price. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me into this space and for that wonderful moment of respect and honoring the land and the ancestors. Thank you so much. My name is Pamela Price. I am the first African American female district attorney for Alameda County, and I'm serving in that role. I see I was seeing a delay. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes. All right, great.
Yeah.
So I am a civil rights lawyer for 40 years, an activist in this community for many, many years, and someone that comes to the work that I'm doing now in the role as a district attorney from a long, long engagement on criminal justice reform from law school till now, and understanding that reforming the criminal justice system is one of the central and most critical issues, civil rights battles that we're fighting in this time when we talk about slavery and how we are treating Black and Brown people in this country. It's a long line. Randall Robinson died yesterday, and I was looking at his book and looking at his legacy and remembering that he talked about quitting America because of the long struggles that we have had in this country. So thank you for reminding us of the ancestors and of the battles that we fought. And we're still fighting, being in resistance. So I am serving today from a position of resistance. I have a button that says "We are the resistance." Okay, on my desk. I keep it on my desk to remind me that I am not here by accident, that it is in fact ordained that I serve in this way, and that the people of Alameda County elected me to challenge the status quo. And that's what I'm doing. Not only challenge, but transform the criminal justice system. So I'm a graduate of UC Berkeley and Yale College. I got a few degrees and I've done a few things in my life, but right now we're here. And I've had an amazing legal career, as you can see on my wall, some of the things, but a few years ago, I learned that God does not well, what I learned is that if you hold on to your history, you stand in the way of your destiny. And so I moved beyond the great, wonderful history that I have into the next season. So I'm honored to be here tonight with you as your district attorney. Thank you.
Thank you, Jovanka.
Yes, thank you so much for the honor of this invitation to come and meet with you all and hear your concerns, for us to get to know each other. Thank you so much for honoring those who came before us and the struggles that they overcame. And we could, that they fought overcame, and we continue to fight. So I thank you so much for and honoring our ancestors, honoring those who came before us, honoring those whose shoulders we stand on. My name is Javanka Beckles, and I have been, I'm current AC Transit board member, recently elected in 2020. And I am I was also previously on the Richmond City Council for 2 terms. So from 2010 to 2018. 2018, I was a candidate for for the State Assembly, AD 15 at the time. It's changed now with, all of the restructuring and realignment. They continue to try to figure out ways to suppress our votes. And so there will be a new district. There hasn't been a new district. There will be a new district coming up that you all will undoubtedly be a part of. But I'm very, very proud of the work that I've done as a Richmond City Council member. I'll talk about some of that later. I'm proud of the work that I've done as an your AC Transit representative, and I affirm to represent you all well as I become a candidate for the state Senate, which will be State Senate seat District 7. Nancy Skinner has termed out, will have termed out next year, and so I hope to be your next senator. We haven't had one of those. We haven't had Black since the 90s when Barbara Lee was there, and I know together we can change that. So thank you so much for the invitation, and I look forward to this conversation.
Thank you both. That was amazing. I knew you could do it better justice than myself since I wasn't prepared. So I was like, oh my goodness, I forgot the bios. But anyway, that's what happens when you get sick, I guess. You forget things. But so we're going to start asking, I guess we'll go one question to Pamela and then one question to Javanka. How does that sound? And the first question is, wait a second, my computer's not happy. How is it going so far being the first Black woman at Alameda County DA?
Oh my goodness. How much time do you have? I need to be timed. It's a blessing, I can say, let me start there because it is a blessing. I am so grateful to be a Black woman, have always been grateful to be a Black woman, to know where I came from and whose shoulders I stand on, and the strength and the purpose that I have, that we all have as Black women. And so I bring that every day to my position, and it's fun to be able to be there and know that I'm making history every day. That part is really fun, and it is, it's challenging, but we're meeting the challenges. I came into the seat, as you all may have known, when I was running for the seat, I said, do not take me to the front door of that building and have me walk in there and say, okay, leave me at the front door. All right, Pamela, go ahead, girl, do your thing. You got it. I kept saying that. I needed community to come with me. And so that was my intention. And that has been the design from day one. I walked in that building, 1225 Found Street. If you don't know it, it's the big white building by the lake. Has a long history of being a symbol of oppression for the Black community. Long history. And I went into that building knowing very much the history that I was changing and impacting. And I went in there with a team of awesome lawyers. My I have two chief deputies, chief assistant district attorneys, Otis Bruce and Royal Roberts, who both happen to be African-American men. I have four senior assistant district attorneys, Simona Faris Best, Cynthia Chandler, Annie Esposito, and Quazan Malouf. Two of them are African-American lawyers, well-respected, well-rounded. Annie Esposito is an Asian seasoned veteran of the office, and Cynthia Chandler is a white woman who has been a badass civil rights lawyer for many, many decades. And has done, a lot of the same work that I've done on a different path. But these are awesome people, and they came with me. And we were also able to bring Kelsey O'Neill, who is an awesome mental health clinician, who has just made a dramatic impact and difference in how we attacked the mental health failures of the criminal justice system, finding people who are incompetent to stand trial, and making a difference in that arena. Antoine Clord and Raymond Landry came with us as well. Chief Eric Lewis came with us. Antoine and Raymond Landry have done amazing work on the reentry front, and beginning to build out how the district attorney can be a partner in bringing people home safely in a way that does protect public safety. Chief Eric Lewis is an African-American man who has taken charge of the inspectors division. The DA's office has 75 inspectors who are, armed police officers, essentially. And so he's managing that group. So it's been challenging, but I've had a great team, and we recognize that we have great opportunities because we walked into an office that has a strong legacy of racism and inequities, and really being just a detriment to the community. And we get to turn that around. We get to reset the relationship between our office and the judges and the police and the community, with our young people. So many different opportunities that we have that we're taking advantage of. And, it is challenging work, but it's good work. Every day you're doing God's work. And so you just get up and some, we're working 12, 14-hour days. But it's good work for us because we are there on a mission. We're very clear that we are engaged in a transformation, and that's going to take all hands on deck. And so I've been very supported. And, some days we have fun. We keep it real with each other. There's no I, they call me Madam DA, but it's a sign of respect for the C. I work collectively with a team of people, and there's no, it's not that I'm just running it like my predecessor ran it like a dictator. And you can tell in so many ways that what we found was a system, an office that lacked accountability, that lacked structure. People are not understanding. They don't have policies, or the policies that they have, they don't follow. People have been sounding the alarm to me about how we deal with immigrants and people who are undocumented, and that policy, even though there's a written policy, it's not being followed. And it is up to us to figure out how to make sure that we have our deputies. So there's so much work to be done, but we're doing it and doing it well. So I'm excited still. I just got there. I'm still real new, but I'm still excited about it. So thank you.
That's awesome. Do you want to answer the same question in as far as AC Transit goes? I know you've been there a little while, but
Yeah, how is it going with AC Transit? First and foremost, I want to thank all of you because I recognize you all. I recognize you from the public meeting that we had, AC Transit staff, myself, and Franz Vadeline, and the Black health center. I recognize so many of you from that meeting, and I want to first and foremost say thank you. Thank you, Mama Yana. Thank you for, caring about your community and caring and ensuring the healthy Black families. Just thank you, sis. For caring about your community, especially those who are transit dependent, those who, are otherwise able. It meant ensuring that AC Transit lives up to its responsibility of being a public service. So I really appreciate all of you and hearing your voices and hearing you write letters to AC Transit. So yeah, you asked, how is it going? Well, it's going okay. And I say that to say is because there has been some pushback sometimes, from our staff with regard to what unfortunately is a minority on the AC Transit board, a minority of us who believe that, for example, the line 80 should be restored, that we're unfortunately in the minority. And so that's why it's so important that, why we rely on the community to come out and let your voices be heard, so that staff isn't thinking that this is just something I want to do. This for somehow I'm gonna benefit from it. I don't know. I don't know what the thinking or the rationale is. But when the community comes out like you do and you continue to did and continue to do, it helps to have that squeaky wheel. They say the squeaky wheel is that the one that gets oiled. And so I ask that you continue to be that squeaky wheel. It's been so many of the things that I imagined could happen while at least my first term on AC Transit. This is the third year now of my first term. It has been a struggle to implement. And as many of you know, because you're so politically savvy, you all know one elected official, it's very difficult to sometimes implement policies if my colleagues, aren't backing it, right? And so without we need a vote of 4 to implement the kinds of policies that the community is asking. And so sometimes, on the AC Transit, I tend to be a lone voice. Sometimes I am a voice of maybe 2, myself and Gene Walsh sometimes, who's also your representative parts of Berkeley. So it's going in a way that I feel is slow. It sometimes can be frustrating and disappointing when I personally want things to go a little bit faster. For example, we're still talking about free transfers. That hasn't happened yet. We're still talking about restoring lines, particularly that of the line 80, which will most likely come back, but not as it was before, and perhaps not even with that number. So we're thinking about a pilot program that would create a line that would allow a connection to that part of the Ashby that's currently not being served at this point. So, there's so much that needs to happen that is going a little slower than I would hope. I think it's important, free transfers are important. I think having seniors and those who have limited income, I think, they should be able to have public transportation that gets them to and from without having to figure out how to pay for it. There's so many different policies that I'd like to see implemented. But what's happening now in AC Transit, as well as a lot of the transit agencies throughout California, is that we keep hearing the line, we are headed towards a fiscal cliff. And, we're told that, we're heard a lot, which of course sometimes, scares folks. into thinking that, oh my goodness, well then that means we are going to have to lay people off, or we're going to have to cut some lines. And being the kind of representative that I have been throughout my life in service, has always been, I am not going to cut the workers. If anything, we're going to cut from the top. I don't believe in cutting from the bottom. If it comes to that. And what I have noticed, especially when I was on the city council, when you have a majority of progressive council members, progressive elected officials, and you talk like that, you say, hey, no, I'm sorry, we are not cutting from the bottom. We're going to cut from the top. Things tend to change when that happens. They seem to come up with different solutions. And so, so do know that that's what's happening. There is a shortfall of resources, financial resources, but I personally am going to send letters. I have called in to the budget committee requesting that we be funded. Public transportation needs to be funded because the majority of people who ride are of color, our students, our seniors, all the elders, all those who are differently abled, and it's not right, it's not fair, it's unjust to cut a service that's needed by so many. So that's how it's going on the AC Transit Board.
Thank you. And just so that everyone here knows, the day of the hearing, when they were talking about the 80 line, I got a phone call from the Honorable Javanka Beckles to get me to help her to get you all to go to that meeting. So I was like, oh my gosh, Javanka Beckles is calling. What's up with that? So I answered
people.
immediately, and I got folks there, so
Yes.
including myself. So thank you for that. That's what service, that's who we voted for, and that's the service that she's providing to make sure that our voices are heard. So thank you for that. And then the next question we have is for Pamela. How will you address the penal laws that are more aggressive towards Black, Brown, and Indigenous and people of color? Or getting them, not the same treatment, but making it worse for our folks.
Yeah, I mean, one of the first things that we have done is acknowledge it. This office has a long and horrible history of racial disparities, economic disparities. And it was, so just being there, coming into that space, knowing that those disparities exist, and, understanding how deep it goes. When we talk about being Black in Alameda County, there's a study that was done that said that if you are Black in Alameda County, you're 20 times more likely to be incarcerated than a white person. We know from the data from the probation department that Black and brown children make up 86% of all juvenile felony arrests. We know that 50% of the people on probation or parole in Alameda County are Black or brown, and that at times, generally more than 60 to sometimes 70% of the people in Santa Rita County Jail are Black. And that is, those are horrible statistics, and yet they have been acceptable to the people who have been responsible for the administration of justice in Alameda County. And so first, it's important to acknowledge it and make those who have been engaging in this behavior, and because a lot of it does come down to prosecutorial discretion. Prosecutors charge people, they make decisions about who gets charged, what the charges are, what the plea bargain is, what the sentence is going to be. And what we found is, and what we know from the data, is that enhancements across the board are used overwhelmingly against Black and brown people versus white people or Asian people. And when you look at the population in state prison, people serving long sentences based on enhancements that were used by deputies in Alameda County. And celebrate, people participated in the status quo. And the status quo was, we incarcerate Black and brown people. The new Jim Crow is very real in Alameda County and has been very real. And so we've come in saying the new Jim Crow, the way in which justice has been administered, is no longer acceptable. Okay. We started meeting, we did a survey first of all the employees. And then we identified those who are responsible for charging, for plea dispositions, and those things that impact sentencing. And what we said was, we need you all to stop, take a look at what you're doing. Let us look at the enhancements that you're using, and let's come up with a fair model, a balanced model for if we're going to, in fact, be punishing people, because that's essentially what they've been doing, not necessarily doing justice, it's just about punishing people, okay? If we're going to do that, let us look at what the options are with respect to that punishment. And so we instituted a policy that said, you need to stop using, why do you need to charge someone with 25 years to life when you know that the fair punishment might be 5 to 10 years, which is, and getting them to understand 5 to 10 years in jail is a significant number. Most countries around the world who have penal systems, 20 years is like the max that anybody does for anything, okay? But our system, we hand out sentences 115 years to young people even. And the Supreme Court has said, we should not be incarcerating young people, juveniles, for giving them, for whatever the offense is, life without the possibility of parole. And yet our deputies have a long and well-established, entrenched custom of giving juveniles, 25 years to life, or determinate sentences, 85 years to life. I mean, just really outrageous practices that have become normalized in the DA's office. And so what we did was say, no, we have to have a new normal. We have to set limits at the top and begin to evaluate what cases do require someone to be incarcerated for a long period of time and what cases do not. And putting that lens inside the DA's office has been, dramatic. It's very new, a lot of resistance on the ground. You see, recently there's been a parade of people resigning because they don't want to be part of a system that's fair. You're changing the rules of the system to make it fair. I don't want to be part of it, which is quite interesting. But that's okay. We're happy to have those folks depart so that we can begin to really, the people who are willing and want to be part of the transformation will be, will stay and will continue to follow the policy and work with us. So it's about policy, but understanding that culture eats policy for lunch. And so first, making sure that they understand the culture is that a Black woman is now in charge of this institution, and we are not going to tolerate race discrimination. The Racial Justice Act we are mandated by the legislature to enforce the Racial Justice Act, which means we have to have people of color in juries. We cannot allow racism or racist police officers, racist expert witnesses, racist judges to determine how justice is administered. And we actually have to resist that. And so getting that is part of the culture, and then that will lay the foundation for us to then come up with the policies that actually will effectuate the mandate that we have.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much. So I don't know if there are there any like can you talk about policing on AC Transit? And we have a question. Hold on, Mama Anna. Can you talk about policing on AC Transit, Javanka?
Yeah, first of all, I want to say, that's exactly why we need more courageous Black women in offices all over this country. So,
Amen.
no, that's right. One of my favorite buttons that I got from the Black Panther Party, the installment that was at the museum, and it's, it says respect the Black woman. Yes, because thank you so much, DA Price. Thank you so much, Pamela. So AC Transit, they had a $27 million contract with the Alameda County Sheriff's Department, as well as for over the course of 3 years, as well as the Contra Costa County Sheriff's Department. And so when I came in, along with one of my colleagues, new colleague, Jean, we said we wanted an audit of what's happening here, because why is it costing $9 million a year, because it's $27 million over the course of 3 years, that's the contract. And I'm hearing that they either don't show up, or they show up late, or, even if they showed up in a timely manner, it doesn't help when the operator was punched or spat on and that person left, because all that's going to happen in the course of at least maybe 5 minutes. They're not going to be able to show up that quickly. We were asking staff, why is it we're paying $9 million for that? Why are we paying $9 million? And it says in this report that they were supposed to be, there was like there was a time when I guess they would, randomly ride the bus just to kind of help some of the operators felt. Can y'all hear me? Okay, I know I'm trying to mute, I guess, everyone. So yes, why, so if the operators were feeling comfortable and there was supposed to be these random ride-alongs or whatever, I guess why is that not happening? But I also hear stories. I got a really heartbreaking story from a woman, Black woman, who had ridden the bus, and it was at night, and there were some issues that happened between the operator and the passenger, and they brought the sheriff's department in, and she felt so afraid because basically they ended up arresting her, and she's like, I'm a woman, first and foremost, Black woman. Now I'm being, put into custody with these white men. And it was a really terrifying incident. And I asked staff to get to the bottom of what happened, because I can only imagine how terrifying that must have been in the middle of the night, having to deal with that kind of issue. But so in essence, I had a lot of questions. How in the world did these two agencies, these two departments, Alameda and Contra Costa County, get a $27 million contract for doing what exactly? And so they had to come back with an audit, and of course there were reasons, for such a high bill in essence. And I advocated that I think there's got to be a better way to handle a lot of these issues where people are feeling nervous. Understand that the drivers sometimes feel really nervous or afraid at the end of their shift. If it's in the middle of the night, they like having the sheriff, a patrol car there that made them feel safe. But honestly, I think that, just like most cities, a lot of communities all over the country are really looking at, how do we help our community feel safe without sort of such a punitive approach, right, to safety. And that applies also for AC Transit. So I advocated to reduce that contract. You know, there's so many different things that can happen, because it was my belief, especially from looking at some of these videos that really are horrifying that happens to these operators. Well, there's nothing that could have stopped what happened, and not $27 million, not $9 million, right? But there are certain things that could have stopped it, like perhaps a barrier. You cannot go, if you're riding BART, you can't just go up and touch the BART operator. You can't just go into that space where they're operating BART. So I think that there's got to be a better way as well, that there should be a barrier. COVID showed that it can happen. They put a barrier to keep, you know, the operators safe from COVID. But, you know, I personally think that that barrier could be a lot stronger, could be, you know, it could be bulletproof, it could be, you know, hammer proof, it could be a lot of things that would deter crime. But spending that much money, giving it to the sheriff's department, is not what's going to keep them safe. And it hasn't historically kept them safe. So I think that's a little bit about what has been, you know, where things are with regard to, you know, public safety and AC transit. You know, it's a mixed bag. There are some who say who absolutely agree with me, and then there are some of those operators in particular who feel like I just need to see them in order for me to feel safe. But you know, it's a culture, and a lot of it is gonna need, I think, a lot of through education, how we can help them to feel safe and not, in essence, be wasting money. If we're headed to a fiscal cliff, then we definitely don't need to be spending $27 million on the sheriff's department. That's technically not really keeping the operators safe from some of these attacks that we're seeing, you know, that we have seen on the news. So I don't know, Cheryl, would you like me to just jump into the next?
No,
Oh.
I think Mama Ayana had a question, so
Okay.
let's ask her, and then I have a couple more questions for both y'all.
Okay.
Mama Ayana?
Thank you. I have a question for you, Javanka, and a question or a couple of questions for Pamela and myself. One is for Javanka. How or what is the plan for AC Transit to work with BART to create a ridership plan for the Ashby BART station development and the North Berkeley BART station developments?
Right. That is something that's a part of the realignment that's happening, and so staff is working on it. That's part of the Ash connection, because that's been a question that folks have been asking. Well, how are we going to help connect people, you know, who are trying to get to BART or coming from BART, and that whole Ashby corridor. So right now they are in, staff is it's in the works right now, because we do see that it is absolutely, it's a necessary service that we have to figure out how to make it happen. One of the things that staff often tells us is, well, we don't have enough operators to be able to do that. We can't add more lines because we're having a hard time just bringing back some of the lines that were cut. So how in the world are we going to even create additional lines because we don't have enough operators? So that's kind of that's the answer that we keep getting. Well, we have operator shortage. And so I actually am going to be meeting with the ATU membership come in a couple of weeks, because I think that the workers are the ones who tend to, they really understand the issues because they live it. And so I think that we can get some answers from them in terms of what's happening. Why is AC Transit having a hard time hiring people and maintaining, right, and retention? And so once that meeting that will be happening it's going to be April, I think it's April 12th. There's going to be a staff report, April 12th, a staff report on what they think is the issue. But at that meeting, I'll also share what the employees are saying is the problem. So yeah, right now, Mama Yana, it's just they're trying to work it out, but starting with the fact that we don't have enough operators to even think about trying to figure out, how we can fill that void.
Thank you. And then I have a question. I don't know how this is going to work, Shell, but I have a couple of questions for Pamela. One in particular related to our juvenile justice system and our younger people who become incarcerated. Is there a plan to create a pathway to jobs and college and training for our young people who are coming in the system? And in particular, I'm thinking of ceasefire as well. Oftentimes our young people do not want to debrief with the police and then end up having things like their probation revoked and things like that. So what is, you're shaking your head, yes. So I'd like to hear about the plan for creating pathways to jobs, and not just jobs though, to higher level college education. The city of Oakland has these openings that, and the city of Berkeley, like 15 to 50% of they have staff openings. Those are places where we could create training and pathways for our younger people and our people who are incarcerated, as well as any other jobs, these developments that are being built, and so much of the infrastructure that we need to be planning for, right? And creating partnerships to ensure that we have what we need for community in the future.
Yes, so much, so true. Traditionally, the district attorney's office has not done much to address the issues that you raise and the challenges that the community faces overall across Alameda County for young people. And, it's very acute right now, as we know, and particularly in the African American community, our unemployment rates for young people have consistently been, double, triple the unemployment rates for other races, particularly young white people. And so it is a persistent problem, that is unfortunately part of the fabric of the community, is that our children are not given the opportunities, young people. And it's across the board, whether it's employment, housing. My office has, for the first time, we are looking at creating a community support bureau that will bring together all of our efforts and our engagement with the community to actually have an impact on, particularly on the lives of young people. We're looking at partnering with mentorship programs, particularly those that are not based in law enforcement, although I've had that conversation with the Sheriff's Department as well as Oakland Police Department. But we're looking for partnerships outside that are not strictly limited to those that law enforcement has led. We're looking to create partnerships with programs like CiviCorps in Oakland. I was devastated to see the difference between the support that the county provides to a program like CiviCorps that is primarily Black and brown kids, and I call them kids, they're young people. I mean, they're under the age of 25, so they're really young to me. But the level of support contrasted that with my predecessor's Justice Academy, which had virtually no Black or brown children. I was just astonished and appalled. And so we're looking at bringing online this summer, in collaboration with Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s son, Martin Luther King Jr. III, and his wife. We're going to create the Drum Major Academy for our young people here. And working more with organizations like the Martin Luther King Freedom Center. One of my chief assistant district attorneys is a former operations director and leader at the Martin Luther King Freedom Center. So we know that we can create a very deep relationship with them. So we're in process of setting that up and making sure that the district attorney's office is intentional about how we engage with community, both in terms of young people. We've met with labor union leaders and are beginning to talk to them about how do we partner with you to ensure that the programs that they have, the apprenticeship programs, are being made available to young people of color in this community. That's one of the initiatives that we've led. And also working, as I said, bringing all of that together to be intentional across the county, not just North County, but recognizing that in the Tri-Valley, there's the Genesis for Youth and the Tri-Valley for Black Lives. Those young people need our support. And, I'm very mindful that it's important that the county-wide effort is coordinated through my office. So you'll be hearing about that. This Community Support Bureau has never existed. What we're finding is that the relationships between the DA's office and community organizations has been very much ad hoc. A lot of you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, a lot of incestuous stuff. We have canceled 2 contracts just in the first months of my term that involved young people who were not getting the services. People were getting paid to make pathways for young people into our office, and it was not happening. So we're very focused on making sure that certain people are not exploiting the needs that young people have, and that we are doing our part to be responsible, and we're looking for performance-based accountability. If you say you're helping young people, you need to show us. And certainly creating new relationships and using those opportunities that we know exist and are so necessary. I meet regularly with something called the DA Accountability Roundtable, which is young people who came aware of the DA's role, the power that the district attorney has. When we ran the first time I ran, for the first time, young people started paying attention. What is the DA doing? And so we regularly meet with them to listen to what their concerns are, and we're in the process of revising and issuing guidelines for juvenile justice and how young people, whether or not they get charged with strikes, which are devastating to Black and brown children, whether or not they get charged as adults, and addressing all of that. So thank you. I could go on and on and on. There's so much that could be done.
Thank you. That was an excellent question. Thank you, Mama Ayana, for asking.
Me.
So the next question
Excuse me, Cheryl, I'm wondering if I could ask, if it's possible for me to ask Mama Ayana to put her question. You can send it directly to me, or if you want to send it to everyone, because I want to direct that to our staff, because I actually am getting a little frustrated with the same answer of, we don't have enough operators to do anything. But so if you could put that question in the chat, I will mail it to our staff and get back to you about that. Thank you, Cheryl.
That's what I'm talking about. Excellent. Thank you, Jawanka. And I really so much appreciate both y'all being here this evening. This is amazing. This is really great. So our next question for the district attorney is, what reforms are you implementing to ensure that police officers stop killing Black, brown, and Indigenous and people of color? And also, I'm going to give you the other question, so you might want to answer both. How will the Alameda County's DA's office also ensure that the police departments throughout the county have verified their officers' psychological status prior to being hired or going to boot camp?
Yes, both of those questions are related. I can say for the last question, it is not I don't have the authority to verify what the managers of each department does. There are 14 actually, there's 18 law enforcement agencies in Alameda County, operating in Alameda County. And they all have their own requirements. They don't all coordinate. And so it really is a department by department management issue about how they do it. As we found with the sheriff, there was no oversight, and they just pretty much did what they wanted to and let people in and gave people passes. And we don't know how other departments are actually doing that. Police vetting, both from a psychological perspective, is a very challenging endeavor in California and across the country. And I know that it was a big issue a few years ago with Los Angeles, the Los Angeles Police Department, and how people were just being passed through. So it's a national issue. There are no standards per se, and there is no enforcement mechanism within my office that allows me to go to each department and say, have you properly vetted your officers?
Yeah.
What I can do is on the opposite end, and that is, well, sort of in the middle and in the opposite, on the end. The first thing we did was create a police accountability unit, or a public accountability unit, that addresses both police misconduct, officer involved shootings, as well as elected officials and public misconduct. And just having that unit and saying, we're serious about this, that we are looking at cases, was a culture shock across the county for law enforcement agencies. Because as we all know, there had been a double standard, and my predecessor and her predecessor, and going back too many years, they had simply turned a blind eye to police misconduct. And we know that police misconduct involves not only the use of deadly force, it involves domestic violence, it involves other violations of law that officers get away, particularly in Oakland and Berkeley. Reckless driving has resulted in people being killed and maimed, and just no accountability across the board because they weren't looking for it. We're looking now. And when we hear about things, we are looking. Also, we know we came into office knowing that there were cases that we needed to review. And so we did that, and we're in the process of doing that. We're creating protocols for the review, timely review of cases of police misconduct. And we're trying to my plan is to work with law enforcement, all of the agencies, to try to have a uniform policy about when they report misconduct that they become aware of to us, because that has not been done either. That's not necessarily a reform, that's just a policy. The reforms have come for police agencies, and police accountability have already come from Sacramento. Dr. Shirley Weber did an amazing job changing the standard for the use of deadly force. It was the first time in like 100 years that it had been changed. And our job now is on the ground is to make sure that officers are aware of the changing standard, and that the departments are committed to following the Constitution and the laws of the state of California. And so my job is to hold them accountable to the laws that already exist on the books, including when we have the ability to look at officers who should not be testifying. And we have, unfortunately, far too many cases in Alameda County where officers have committed perjury, officers have bought testimony, and convictions have been overturned because of police and prosecutorial misconduct. My role within the DA's office is to make sure that my prosecutors are no longer complicit in the kinds of abuse that we've seen with police officers across the board. The other thing that we did that I'm very pleased about is we assigned the Stephen Taylor case to a deputy district attorney. We're prosecuting it. We got there and we found, you may know, Stephen Taylor was the only case that my predecessor had filed against a police officer under the new law for killing Stephen Taylor in the Walmart in San Leandro. And that case literally was sitting on the shelf when we got there with no one assigned to it. And so we took it off the shelf. I met with Addie Kitchen, his grandmother, and we assured her that we are going to prosecute the case. We're not just going to file it. And, you know, what I think happened is they filed it for the publicity and then they put it on the shelf so that they wouldn't actually have to do anything. But we're working with Ms. Kitchen now and have represented to her. We will prosecute this case according to the law, which is what the people are entitled to. And as I've said many times, my policy is to support constitutional policing, to demand that officers respect the Constitution and treat our residents with respect and dignity. And a perfect example, and it goes to what Javanka talked about with the sheriff's department. We just had, the county just got a friend of mine just got a verdict against the county for $8.25 million because the sheriffs who were engaged with a Black family did not treat them with dignity and respect, totally disrespected them, arrested them. And unfortunately, you know, that was their experience because they don't even live here. But it was 3 Black women, and that was their experience of being victimized by the sheriff's department and having to bring a lawsuit. And the county did not take accountability for that. And as a result, the jury has spoken and said that anytime, I know as a civil rights lawyer whose practice was in federal court, when you get a verdict of that size, 8.25 million, the jury is trying to send a message that the conduct is totally egregious and unacceptable. And the county, I hope, will get that message and that will lead to some reforms within the sheriff department.
Thank you for that. I'm learning so much amazing stuff. I knew you were amazing before, but you've gotten way greater this evening. And I know you're going to make us even more proud. So thank you so much. So Jovanka, what about, let's see, I have a couple more questions. I'm sorry. So you talked earlier about you wanted to talk about things that you championed at AC Transit. So, and maybe you also want to talk about your champions while you're on council.
Okay, yeah. So I am so proud of the work. I always remind people that, you know, I am so proud of a lot of the policies that I've championed, that I've brought forward in the past that have improved the quality of life for the residents in this community, you know, this Bay Area community, Richmond community. And I always remind folks that there's no way I could do that by myself. And so I cannot take credit by myself. This has always been a community effort. So, you know, with that, just starting off on the Richmond City Council, when I was first elected in 2010, the first policy that I brought forward and passed was the ban the box policy, you know, because we're talking about, you know, all these systemic racism and oppression and how it's very systemic. It's all about policies and that help to keep us down. And so, you know, in my work with the county and children, in children's mental health, working with the kids, working with the families, I saw so often the kids that I was working with would come in sad sometimes because, you know, these children have depression or ADHD, or some of them, you know, have just behavioral challenges. And a lot of it had to do with what's going on at home. Right. So what's going on at home affects what's going on at school. So now they're challenged at school. They have all these different behavioral challenges because it all comes back to home. But home issues always goes back to policy issues. And so they would be depressed or sad, like, well, either it was some family member, you name it, aunt, uncle, dad, mom, had to go, was incarcerated once again. They got sent back to jail, they say. And I thought to myself, like, what is happening? I've seen these kids, they're hungry, they can't pay, their families can't pay rent. They're just struggling to make ends meet. And so now you have a parent coming back from incarceration, returning citizens coming back, and they want to do what's right. They want to be law abiding, but they can't find a job. No one wants to give them a job because the minute they answer that question, have you ever been, convicted of a felony? The minute they answer that question, that their possibility, the opportunity to gain employment is just out the door now. So seeing a lot of these issues really caused me to work with the Safe Return Project in Richmond. And they talked about that. Like, it's hard for us to be successful once we return back to our communities if nobody's going to give us a job. So one of the things we could do as a municipality is, well, we could take that question off the box. Then after that, we took that question off of our public housing applications. And I always can appreciate the courage that we were able to show in Richmond, because as a result of that courage, we gained national attention, we gained statewide attention. So then eventually the state then passed the ban the box policy for private employers as well. And I think, I salute Richmond, because I believe that it's because of the work we've done that actually, inspired so many people at the state level. So ban the box was one. You raised the minimum wage. We raised the minimum wage. We were the second city. We wanted to be the first city, but there were, believe it or not, there were people in Richmond who were fighting against raising the minimum wage. So San Jose ended up beating us, but we then came back with a higher minimum wage. So I think San Jose went up to maybe 10, and Richmond, we went to 12 and eventually 15 before the state did. And again, I'm really proud of that work. I'm proud of the work that of blocking our police department from using money for license plate readers. I know it sounds like a good idea. We goes, oh, you should be able to read license plates because that's how the criminals get away with things. But when you know how these laws work, that it disproportionately affects people of color, and it's used in ways that isn't always, for the purpose of actually catching people who are actually committing crimes. So that was one of the things. The other thing that I'm actually very proud of is police accountability and reforming what was once called the Police Commission. That name was later changed to a Citizens Review Commission. When a family in Richmond became victims of a crime, not a crime, but abuse from the police department, there wasn't much that could be done. Oftentimes, I'm going to back up a little bit. I'm going to use the P.D. Perez case as an example. His family lost their son to police violence. They were mourning. And so when a family's mourning, it's really hard to think about, oh, my time is running out for me to complain about this. You're not thinking about that. You're thinking, you're mourning. So there was our law before the policy was, you had to, as a family, as a community member, you had to report you had to file a complaint within 45 days. Otherwise, it was just not going to even be taken up by the commission. And so I helped pass a new policy that said, it's just, if your family is injured or hospitalized or killed by Richmond police, it's an automatic investigation. It's an automatic review. The families don't have to worry about trying to figure out if if the deadline passed for me to, for me to submit my report and my complaint. So I'm really happy about that. And interestingly, there's always people who, try to fight these kinds of policies. So it was a big fight, but the community ended up winning. First, helped pass rent control in Richmond, and that kind of set it off as well throughout the state. On the AC Transit Board, I mean, there's so much more in Richmond that I could talk about, but just in recent times, during my so far my tenure on the AC Transit Board, I'm really proud to have fought the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, that's the MTC. They are the body that, in essence, controls how the money is divided up to all of the different transit agencies in the Bay Area. So they kind of control it. They get the monies, the funding, and they divvy up. Well, they were trying to hold on to it, stating that, well, there's going to be a fiscal cliff, so we're going to have to hold this money for a rainy day. And together with the community, with the operators, with the employees of AC Transit, we went to San Francisco. We called for an action. So I sent letters, helped organize a letter writing campaign, and MTC released $27 million to AC Transit. And with that money, I championed, because during the pandemic, they were essential workers. They had to go to work. I was fortunate enough, working in mental health, I could meet with my clients online through Zoom and be safe. Well, the operators, they had to go to work. And so with that money that we got from MTC, I was able to convince the executives, convince my colleagues as well, to use some of that money as what they were calling hazard pay. We like to call it appreciation pay. But anyway, all of the employees at AC Transit got a hazard pay, and that's something that I'm very proud of that have happened. Also, they complained about, can you imagine working in a place that you just have to work nonstop and there's no dedicated facilities for you. So when it's time and your body's saying it's time, there's nowhere for them to go. That's pretty shameful. And so it sounds pretty absurd, but in essence, folks, the drivers would have to hold it as long as they could, because there weren't very many places, any dedicated places for them to be able to relieve themselves. And so one of the things that I championed was collaborating with different private businesses, municipalities, to be able to open up their offices, their buildings, for the operators, for them to be able to relieve themselves, and because they are human beings and we all need that. And so we were able to direct the staff to collaborate throughout the region to ensure that the operators had a place for them to relieve themselves, as well as like a staff break areas. A lot of the drivers would have to be in their buses when it's time for their breaks. There were pictures of drivers laying down on the street, trying to just take a break. And those are really some terrible working conditions. And so as a result of my advocacy, the district is starting to build break rooms throughout the Bay Area for the operators. There's, as well as just my advocacy for the Line 80, being a champion for that, being a champion for bringing back, all of these lines that were initially cut. Being a champion at the state level for bringing money, trying to get some money released so that we don't have to start talking about laying off anybody. But, if it were to come to that, I'm first and foremost about the community and the workers. And so, that won't happen on my watch. I think that about covers
Well-
it. There's, been a lot going on, and as a labor person myself, I'm a member of Teamsters Local 856. I'm a champion for the workers, and so I make sure that when it's time for them to negotiate contracts, you know what, I'm gonna have the workers back. I'm sorry, that's how I operate, and that's how I'm always operate.
Amen. Thank you for that. And then I was just wanted to ask both of you these last few questions. At the last Equity Summit, we heard from Councilmember Fife, and actually I was listening to KPFA and Cat Brooks, Law and Disorder. They talked about this as well, how they've been getting threats. And so I was curious, or we were curious if that's an issue or a problem, what other problems you might be having in your positions. I'll start with well, you're unmuted. Go ahead, Jamonica.
Yeah, I
And
was
then
gonna say I could go first because I know that, my answer is gonna be relatively short. Thank God, thank Spirit. I've not had any threats, and so I'm really grateful for that. I know that wasn't the case when I was on the city council, but I got threats in emails. I got sent a monkey one time with like the face of a monkey with my body, and they said, this is something with the N word, something, but it is unfortunate, like, that these are the kind of things we have to face, just trying to serve the community. Oh my goodness. So yeah, that's you. I thank goodness that's not been happening with me.
Well,
So
count your
far.
blessings, as you
Exactly.
say.
I do. I am.
I'm having the opposite experience. Yes, I
Right.
get threats. They generally go the threats that come to the office, they are immediately referred to the inspector's division, and they've had to investigate some people and figure out where is this person and what, they do a threat assessment. They have to figure out what the credibleness of it is. And obviously, as the first Black woman in a position of tremendous power to make a change in this community, I am being attacked by people who are committed to the status quo and don't want to see change. And the opposition is very vocal, and some of it is local, some of it is from people inside the office. That, like I said, we've seen a parade of white women leaving in the last week or so, and it's a very organized effort to amplify their voices, as if their voices are the only voices. They're the only people who work at the DA's office. We have almost 150 lawyers, but these three are the most important people in the world. And it's that kind. And then the people who amplify their voices are doing so to create a climate of hostility and a threatening climate. I guess I'm supposed to be threatened by the adverse, the attacks, or these hit pieces. But that is so. It's part of the environment that we face as Black women when we are on the front lines of trying to make change. And so it's unfortunate but this is it's America. This is not anything new. And we will continue to do the things that we were elected to do. And I will continue to be unabashedly a Black woman who understands that I'm dealing with a racist system and people who have participated, and prospered in a broken system. And they don't want to see that system fixed. And I think, as I've looked at some of the ways that people have attacked me and are, creating online opportunities for people, I've seen some pretty racist stuff in the attacks in social media. But I think about, I know that just comes with the territory. We know, I'm very familiar with COINTELPRO, how that was a concerted effort, organized effort to destabilize Black leaders and starting from the Panther Party to any organization that dared to raise the question of racial equity in this country. So that's just, it goes with the territory. Even Dr. King was, someone pointed out to me that he was being attacked right before he died. And he said, I don't care. I'm going to be a drum major for justice. And so that's how I approach it. It is unfortunate. What I need, and your one of your questions is how can the community support? I need people to speak out wherever they can, whether that's on Twitter or Facebook or any social media. I haven't seen, I mean, I see ripples on Instagram. Twitter is the worst. Next door, oh my God, Cheryl, you mentioned it coming up. You know, next door is the most outrageous, racist thing. I had to crack up because I saw somebody on next door said I bought all the inmates at Santa Rita County Jail new televisions. And then somebody followed up with a comment. Yes, I confirmed it. It's true. These people are crazy, okay? But it's next door has that reputation of just being Looney Tunes, and people are free to say whatever they want to, even to the point of, yes, threatening my safety. And so it's important that we continue to hold each other in love. And I tell my staff every day, give people grace. You don't know what they're going through. And so it's important to be, for us, I'm a student of nonviolence, and but I'm also very clear you can take a principled position, and you just have to hold fast to what you know to be true. And the stuff that these people are saying is absolutely not true, but they're doing it with an agenda to try to destabilize by attacking the justice system, or me as the leader of the justice system. It's very destabilizing. The threat to our community is as dangerous as the threat to our democracy that we've seen, in Washington and other places. So it really is, it's a threat to all of us, and we need to stand firm and stand in love and stand with commitment, and let people know that this is not okay, and that you haven't been doing this. You have not been behaving like this in the past. So you should not be behaving like this now. It's not, it doesn't serve our community. And that needs to be the message. And having gatherings like this where I can talk to people and really tell them what is really going on in the DA's office, and not, have rumor and speculation and, unnamed sources giving their views about what the office, and people actually believe in that stuff. So we have to talk to our friends, our neighbors, and particularly, in Berkeley, you have a lot of the community is really divided between progressives and a lot of really liberals that are prepared to accept the racial inequities of this system. They were prepared to accept it in 2018, and they're still thinking that it's okay. And
That's right.
after the murder of George Floyd, and we see how the district attorney and Ahmaud Arbery tried to cover up that man's murder and colluded with the murderers, people in Berkeley should not be under any kind of illusions that this system has been has been administered in an ethical and fair way. And the data shows that it has not. And so they need to be held. We need to confront them with their racism and say to them, you cannot excuse how this system has been running, and you need to we're not going to accept your racist, complicity. Silence is complicit. Silence is complicit.
That's
And Dr.
right.
King, again, I'll end with this. He said it was not from the letter from the Birmingham jail. He talks about how it was not the silence of it wasn't the voices of the opposition that so disappointed him. It was the silence of our friends. And that's what we see a lot across the county, the silence of people who believe that we're doing what was elected to do, but they're too afraid to stand up and say it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's so true. People believe the lies. I know that happened to me. They all believe those lies. And I didn't get reelected. Someone
Right.
else was selected. So that's
That's
how
right.
that goes. We have
That's
a
right.
question
Oh.
from Makai, and then we can go back to Mama Ayana's question. Go ahead, Makai.
Well, I just wanted to comment that I'm so
Mm.
glad to hear from you, Pamela and Tavanka tonight. And so much of what you have shared with us and what we are going to do at the Equity Summit is to show and help people connect the dots and really know how the system works so they don't be victimized continuously by it. Because you are the public, strong, and powerful positions, I know the one may feel that you're not able to push through policy as much as you would like. But still, you are in the public's eye. You're challenging the status quo. And that's very dangerous for people who have unquestioned thoughts. That's how it should be. White supremacy, racism, enabling policies that structure that paradigm. My question for you is, how do you take care of yourself? Because one Black woman to another, I know we have a lot. There's our families, community, children. We have to be like the arms of Hydra and hand all these things that come our way. We have not had the ability at times to rest and share, and this community, all that has been on our shoulders. So how do you, and I don't expect you to just fully because it's a community forum, but I did want to put that question out because it is a slight cost when you're in community, when you're in battling all these is that I just want you to know that we see you. I am totally impressed by you because I could imagine day in, day out, and the vision that you have to hold that and to keep the mental steeriness. You're committed to your journey. So if you could just share some of what you do, and I have another question. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you for that question. As you were speaking and asking the question, I was breathing. I had to make sure I breathe because it's so true. It's so real. People don't understand the barriers that they maintain and they put up to make sure that we just burn out and that we just say, I can't do this. You know, as some of you know, so I've got the full-time job working with children's mental health. And then I'm a servant on the AC Transit. And then now running for state senate, her seat is expiring. So running for that. So I'm going to be doing 3 different things all at once. And, and how do I make sure that I don't burn out? Because it's so easy to say, you know what, they make this really hard for us, for especially working people, but especially Black women. They make it really hard. And so what I pray a lot and I make sure that at least once a week I do something like for self-care. So today I realized I've gone 7 days doing something for the campaign, doing something for AC Transit, and then working my 40-hour shift. I haven't done any self-care. I haven't taken a break. I haven't gone, so today I had a chance to just get on my bike, and it's been so long that both of the tires were flat. So that was a little wrench, but all right. Good thing I ordered one of those little inflatable things from Sharper Image. You just plug it into the car lighter thing, and what we used to call a lighter, and it was able to fill it up really quickly. But I got a chance to go for a bicycle ride, and I had my music, and it felt so good because we all know, especially for us, and what's already, in our genes, the trauma, we have to figure out ways to just move and take care of ourselves emotionally. I pray to get emotionally prepared for the Senate race, because in the AC Transit race, there were so many lies about me. And again, I'm a working class person just trying to, make the world better and my community better. And y'all, and they come up with some lies because they play dirty. And that stuff affects your being. So what I'm prepared for this time around, because I know it's going to be even harder than the AD 15 race, because now they're really threatened, because you have a Black woman running for a seat of 40, where there are only two Black senators in the whole state of California. There are only two Black senators. One of them, Senator Bradford, his seat expires next year. So he's termed out next year. That's going to leave one person. And affirming that I win to represent us in the Bay Area, represent Black women all over. That still leaves us with only two, and so, they're threatened by that. Like, as Pam likes to continue to say, the status quo is really threatened by Black folks. And so I'm already seeing things that felt like a kick in my gut, from people that I trust and trusted. And, and I had to pull myself together again and say, okay, you know what? It's already done. It's already done. So no matter what they do, no matter what they say, no matter what kind of lies, no matter who stabs me in the back, because they will, it's already happening. It's already done. Nothing they do or say can take away what God's already done. So that's what's going to help me. Yeah, Shay. Yeah, that's going to keep me mentally in love and sane throughout this process. Thank you so much for that question. It's hard. They want us to just stop trying to change things, but having support and having the most powerful entity in the entire universe on my side really helps keep me strong and moving forward.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pamela. Do you want to answer?
Yeah, sure. That is a great question. Thank you, Makai. And thank you all for recognizing and being in solidarity with us in this space, because it is so important. They do not want us to make good trouble. And somebody said those words at the outset. And for me, in 2020, that was the call to action. John Lewis, his legacy, his dying legacy was make good trouble. And that's what we do. And no, they do not want us to be making good trouble. And, as Cheryl pointed out, when you're in a Black woman in a position of power, the status quo will come for you. And they don't play fair. They will make up lies. And they are organized and they have the resources to attack us. And I want to share with you something that I have been using, I've heard it, a gentleman said it, and I wrote it down. It says, to be a Black woman in the United States of America is to exist in a state of constant dualities, progress and setback, triumph and defeat, celebration and disappointment. It's a constant game of starts and stops for us. That's because we exist in a system that oppresses us through both racism and sexism. We live in a country that often expects Black women to show up and do the work, but also to wait our turn when we demand more power and leadership roles. And we know that that is so true. We are the target of and the bane of people who don't want to see us in positions of leadership. And I, like Javanka, I stay rooted in prayer. I tell everybody, if you're praying for me, keep praying. I call people and say, are you praying for me? Because it's getting kind of crazy around here. But I serve a God that I know is always darkest, just before the dawn. And because of the challenges that I have been able to have faced in my life and faced with faith and been delivered and redeemed and restored, I know that no weapon formed against me shall prosper. And so I live that and I walk in it and I pray in the morning. Sometimes I drink at night. I ain't gonna lie. But I do exercise. I do try to exercise consistently. And I try to recognize when I am about to what I call hitting a wall. I thank God I have a partner who recognizes when I'm about 50 feet from the wall that I'm headed towards the wall. For me, I'm like 10 feet before the wall, before I'm like, oh my God, I'm about to hit a wall where I'm just full and I can't take it anymore. But when I recognize that, I stop and I try to step away. And I love the ocean. For me, going to the ocean and just watching the waves and watching people out, in the waves and understanding. One of the things I appreciate about the ocean that we often forget, most of the world is actually water. Okay. We living
Yes.
on a few pieces of land here. The planet is water. And when you look at the water, to me, that reminds me that I am just a little bitty person here in the world, and whatever problems and challenges I'm facing is just a little bit of what's really going on in the world. If I was to go down in that ocean, I find a whole lot of other stuff going on, right? That's way bigger than whatever I'm doing. And so that reminds me and keeps me grounded that it is important for me to walk in the space that I'm in and to be in that I have a role to play in the universe. But I'm not the master builder. I'm just a worker, right? And so that keeps me to try to really take care of myself and keep my head on straight. So thank you, because it's a challenge. People want to put so much on you all the time. And for me in the role as district attorney, I find I'm always on. Like when I'm in that, and I'm a workaholic, so when I'm in there, I'm totally focused on what's the problem today, what's the situation. My team teases me. They say some people are operating on 2 cylinders. I'm operating on 8 all day long.
Yes, yes. My last question is: there's so many policies and practices that are predicated that poor people need to be kept in place and impoverished. We have the military industrial complex, the prison industrial complex, and I love how you're envisioning getting a pipeline so that you could dismantle, especially the prison industrial complex that keeps and allows our prisoners practically slave labor, not paying them, and they're now corporate entities that benefit from that population. So anything that we can do as a community to help you to family get them into training, even running for office, and to kind of dismantle these invisible barriers to running for office, staying in office, and programs to increase the knowledge of our young people. We would love to help you do that.
Yes, thank you. We need to support women running for office, particularly progressive Black women. And what does that mean? That means we got to give money. The name of the game is green in politics. It's money and name recognition. And so I'm committed to try to help women raise money once I get a situation stabilized, because they say I can only do so much as an elected member. But I want to make sure before I got into this office, and certainly going forward, it is critical that we continue to help people, Black women particularly. We have the hardest time raising money, but we have to have it to be able to compete. And so that's one thing that I do want to highlight for us, and knowing, that we are the challenges we're facing. And someone said to me, when you have a solution to the problem, you're a threat to the people who are profiting from our pain.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. You're on mute, Cheryl.
You're on mute, Cheryl. You're still on mute.
Can you unmute her?
My computer is acting strange.
Oh, there you are. They don't want us talking about all this.
We can. Yeah.
I was talking to somebody about reparations yesterday, and all of a sudden we just like couldn't hear each other. It just got cut off.
My sister and I are always talking. Anytime we talk about something crazy, or not crazy, but political or something, both
right.
our phones get cut off,
Just
and we
cut
have to
off,
call
yep.
each other back. So, but anyway, it's 7:59 now, and I am so honored and humbled by the fact that you all came to the Equity Summit this evening. Thank you, Mama Ayana, for the libation. Thank you, Honorable AC Alameda County DA Pamela Price, and Honorable AC Transit Board Member Javanka Beckles. And I also want to thank the Equity Summit Alliance folks. Makai is one of them. I'm one of them. Marissa's here. Afi, Willie. I don't know who else is here, and also the Friends of Adeline's folks. Thank you for being here. We do these every once in a while. This is our 12th one. We'll have a 13. I'm not sure when, but we will. And this has been very, very, very educational and enlightening, and really gave us a great entrance to the DA and AC Transit, because we don't know all the stuff that you do on the daily. We know it's a hard job, and we know we voted for you, and we love you, and we're working for you independently on our own. And I know I persuaded a few folks to vote for you, so that was amazing, and I was so happy and blessed when both of you won.
Yeah.
So I just want to thank everyone for being here and thank you for taking the time because I know you both are very, very busy and this has been amazing. So thank you and have a great rest of your evening. And if I don't see you, happy Easter, happy Ramadan,
Yes.
happy everything.
All right.
Just
Yeah.
stay healthy.
Stay
safe.
healthy, everybody.
Um,
Thank you.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
go back to bed
Good
now.
night.
Have a
Good night.
Yes,
blessed day,
girl. Feel
everyone.
better.
Yeah, feel better, Cheryl.
Yes.
Bye.
Yeah,
Thank you
All
so
right.
much. All right,
all
then.
right,
Thank you
thank
all for
you.
organizing this and having us.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
everyone.
Kai. Thank
And
you. Bye.
I just want to say thank you, everyone, for showing up.
Bye-bye.